Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Somos Mas, the official podcast of Somos Mas NM, and your source for the latest news and notes on New Mexico United and the New Mexico Runners. My name, of course, is Seth Bell. Joining me this evening, one and only Jacob Terrell. Jacob, unfortunately, was not here with us Saturday night when Harry and I did our Instant Reacts show. So we will dive in and get Jacob's reaction to the San Antonio match. We're going to talk about some El Paso Locomotive later this evening, and we'll also, for the first time, dive into some Ted Lasso with the season finale dropping later tonight. So, Jacob, first of all, one burning question for you: where is baby Maggie? I need a new third chair for the show.
I thought we had Logan for that. No, it's bedtime for her. I think one of the times she made an appearance was because we did a live instant reacts. So it was a little bit earlier, and then I think one of the times it was 9 o'clock, but I don't know why she was awake, or I don't know why she wasn't in bed by then.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Logan just happened to be here that one night. He won't be here for too many other nights, as far as the podcast goes. But yeah, it looks like we may be in search of a third chair. You and I were just talking. Neither of us have heard from Earl. We had like 2 messages from him on Saturday, and before that, it was 2 weeks since I've heard anything, and you said you had seen him in person. So if there's anyone out there in the community that is interested in coming on and being at least a part-time third chair for the show.
I mean, we might even take Cole at this point. I don't know.
I mean, it would be interesting to have that perspective. That's for sure. Because, I mean, you're going to be gone at the end of July.
Nope. So 2 months.
2 months. Yeah. You're going to be gone at the end of July. We have no idea where Earl is. We know he's alive. At least we believe he is. So, yeah. I mean, we're certainly not going to end the show by any means, but we're in need of at least a rotating third chair. So, I mean, Jacob, what do you think the solution to this is? Is Earl alive? Is he dead? Are we going to find him on Cops? Like,
I think he's in a honeymoon phase. Maybe by the end of July, he'll be out of the honeymoon phase. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe he'll be right in the middle of the honeymoon phase and we won't have him all season. I'm not 100% sure. I will take a small step back and say he did go through some major life changes recently. Mm-hmm. Obviously the divorce at the end of last year, a new lady now with a kid, a new job. He moved, all since the season started, basically. So he does have a little bit on his plate. I have 4 kids and also am planning on going to the police academy. So I don't know. Harry. Damn it, Harry.
You guys weren't here on Saturday, so Harry was very unbiased. Harry, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the instant react, but Harry and I had a great conversation after the match Saturday night. So
I'm sure you guys did. I did not. I didn't watch the match until I think I finished at about 1 o'clock Saturday or Sunday morning, I guess that would be. And then little known fact, lakes are busy on Memorial Day weekend.
Really?
Yeah. Who'd have thunk that? So
never would have thought. So
I basically worked, I don't know, 11 or 12-hour days for Friday through Sunday, and then Monday I worked my normal 8-hour shift. But so yeah, I did not have a whole lot of time for United. In fact, the game, I may or may not have watched till San Antonio scored the second goal, and then fast forwarded till about halfway through the second half just to see if we scored.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back after I saw that we scored and did watch the second half. I may or may not have fast forwarded through certain times when it was in San Antonio's half for a long time because I did not care if San Antonio scored again. I watched if there was action on the other end where we might score, but that was it. So my takeaway from the game probably isn't going to be as informative as yours and Harry's was, but we don't get paid overtime, Harry.
He's a state employee.
I get comp time for it, which is also kind of nice because I get to take off. But so yeah, I should have gone back and listened to yours and Harry's talk on it before we recorded to give myself a little more insight. But I'm sure you can fill me in on some important things that were said.
Yeah, so basically, Harry and I took a look at the match, and
Harry, he's saying that I watched 5 minutes because that's all we had in our half. The second half, mind you, we had the ball a lot. Thank you very much.
We certainly did. Harry and I were talking about it, and you look at particularly from our perspective, how we played in the first half compared to the second half, and we went more direct in the second half. We didn't play so much possession. We tried to get the ball forward more. We actually looked better in the second half, far better than we did in the first half. And one of the things I mentioned to Harry was that San Antonio's physicality and their speed, their first step, and the way that they all just crashed. You saw 2 to 3 San Antonio players crash every single time one of our guys touched the ball in the first half. And the press from San Antonio, it was just night and day. Like, they played so much better than we did on Saturday.
In the first half.
Yeah, in the first half. It was just, San Antonio, the quality club that they really are. I felt like Kyle Colonna acquitted himself well, stepping in for Kalen Ryden. I felt like some other guys did a decent job. You look at the goals that were scored, and it's just, I don't know. It's one of those matches where you go into it, defending champions, always going to be a tough match. And the first half is just inexplicable. There's no excuse for how we played in the first half. You can't go 2-0 down to a team like San Antonio and expect to come back.
I will say the 2 goals, one was a banger for sure. So Earl is talking to us in the third person, apparently. Mm-hmm. Hi guys, just letting you know Earl's alive. Just a little busy with a taco emoji.
Really sure that's Marlena.
I want to believe it's Earl.
Okay.
I'm sure it is Marlena, but I want to believe it's Earl. The taco emoji makes me think maybe he got a second job at Taco Bell. I don't know.
Could be.
Taco Cabana, maybe. Casa Taco. A taqueria somewhere. I don't know. Anyways, as I was saying, just a great strike that, maybe if I'm remembering it correctly, and keep in mind, sleep deprived after this weekend, so I might be misremembering it, but they're eating dinner from a taco truck. Okay. It's 9:00, guys. Are you drunk college kids? Or what do you, it's not, you eat dinner earlier. So correct me if I'm wrong, Seth. Okay. So before you pull it up, I believe somebody's right in front of him. There's another person behind him that could have maybe stepped up as well. But the first guy was right there. He just has a nifty move, gets past him, unleashes a beautiful shot from outside the 18-yard box. And see right here, Portillo steps, misses. Maybe Harry could be a little closer, but I think it's just a great goal. And then the second goal probably could have been defended better. My point is, neither goal am I like, oh my gosh, that was absolutely atrocious. One was kind of a wonder strike. One was maybe a lucky bounce. This bit of skill right here, this touch right there, just beautiful, sets himself up. Just a really good shot. It goes between a couple defenders. Tembakis not quite up to it, but we just saw right before that a beautiful Tembakis save. The second goal here,
this one here bothered me
because
we completely lose track. There's no marking there. Like, he just steps out from the mass and no one follows him.
I guess, but
because watch, ball comes off of Sam and there's just nobody steps out.
There's nobody there to step out. You've got this
Dolan,
guy's getting
Kelowna, you've got Austin,
this guy's,
Sam.
but they all have a guy right there too.
Yeah.
Except for maybe you could blame Austin for leaving his guy, but he's going for the ball. He misses the header. It takes a kind of a weird bounce off of Sam's foot, and then it just falls kindly. To me, that's more of a just the bounce of the ball
Mhm.
than anything else.
Yeah, this is the one that was called back for offside.
See, I didn't see that one.
Yeah,
This is the first time I've seen that one.
yeah, that was called back. He's off. He's not.
Yeah,
It's not
for
off
sure.
by much, but I felt like Kelowna did a really good job defensively there, slowing down Oluwasi, who got on a huge break.
And then here's our goal, which I thought was a beautifully designed play, and gets Rivas in. It wasn't the same though. It was not the same, because that play got Rivas open. The other one, your player wasn't open, and then Rivas, sure, the header from Rivas takes a kind deflection for us, but it's a good bit of skill by Kelowna and Harry to team up there, because maybe Harry, you could say Harry's shooting that and just kind of misses it, scuffs it, which I think is what happened. But Kelowna's in the right place at the right time and is able to
watch this poor Aaron Dalling.
Yeah. And so I disagree that our goal was the same way. I think there was more skill involved in our goal. Maybe we got a good break off the bounce from the goalie, but it was a wide open header for Rivas, and then Harry and Kelowna make good plays on the ball to get it in the back of the net. Whereas the second goal that we gave up was a defensive play that led to the bad break, and then I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out my ass. Honestly, maybe I'm actually being biased, but I think our goal was prettier than their goal, and that's what I'm going to leave it at.
A little bit, yeah. I don't disagree there. I mean, Oluwasi was, he was a terror all night. You saw him again there just a minute ago on another break. I mean, really at that point, the game had opened up so much that we were really kind of shooting ourselves in the foot with how forward we had gotten, and that's how Oluwasi got in behind on that one. And then there was a foul there towards the end. Should have been an absolute red card for Mitchell Taintor.
For sure. Did Harry agree with that?
Please we didn't get it. We didn't get into that on Saturday.
Okay, Harry, in the chat, I need you to tell me, in your as unbiased as you can be opinion, if Taintor should have got a red card for that foul on who was
Santi.
It? Was it Santi? That's what I thought.
Santi. Yeah, just absolute red card, coming in from behind, taking him out. Should have been an absolute red card. But somehow he only got away with the yellow. I don't know how, but
and there was still about 13 minutes left, if I'm remembering right, and so that could have played a part for sure. I think. Hold on.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things so I saw a lot of people talking about, of course, Prince out, Sack. That crowd was back because we lost, because that's how they work. Mm-hmm. It was orange red. I'll take it. I'll take that from a San Antonio fan, which probably means it was a straight red. And it just flat out, maybe like a dark red, even if a San Antonio fan is saying it was an orange red. Saying that it was the same old situation and same old team. And I will throw back that the problem that I have had with this team this year specifically is them hanging their heads before the RGV match. Going down a couple goals or a goal or giving up an unlucky goal or whatever the case may be, they would hang their head and just seem like they give up. And that's a sign to me of giving up, not only on each other and on the fans, but on the coach too. And so if they would have done that, if they would have come out in the second half and it would have been like Monterey Bay, where they just kept getting beat and we walk out of there, 4-1, mm-hmm. Then maybe I'm like, I still think Zach should finish the year, but I would be a little more concerned. But with the fact that we came back, we fought, we ended up getting that goal. We kept fighting till the end. The San Antonio didn't have, to me, from what I'm trying to recall, San Antonio didn't have a whole lot of meaningful possession in the second half. They had some breakaway opportunities that we saw, both the offside call and then that last one that what's his name? Sorry. Who missed that last breakaway?
Oluwasi.
Yeah. Other than those, it's not like they had possession in that second half with real chances to score. It was just some breakaway opportunities because we were pushing so far ahead, trying to get that tying goal. And I was okay with that. Like that showed me that they wanted those points. They wanted at least a point, and the fact that they were willing to do that instead of just sitting back or kind of waving the white flag and getting run over. The fact that this was after the first half, if you'd have told me this game finished 2-1, I probably would have been happy with that. And so, part of that might be San Antonio kind of sitting back and not wanting that possession necessarily, so they don't get caught on the break. That's could have been why we had more of the ball, but we still at least tried. We got some shots off. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, 10 or 15 minutes into the second half, we had 5 shots compared to 0 in the first half.
Yeah, it was pretty close to that. I want to say our first shot was somewhere around like the 48th, 49th minute.
I know at one point we had 5, and it wasn't that far into the second half. So it definitely was a tale of two halves, which you can't have if you're going to be a consistent team.
Mm-hmm.
But I think going into San Antonio and at least putting up that fight in the second half gave me some level of optimism for Devon Sandoval night.
Yeah, and again, we talked about it last week. San Antonio is the defending champions. They came in, they've been dealing with some injury issues. They've brought in a number of players here the past couple months to help deal with some of that. I mean, clearly their front office is spending money to bring some guys in that are making differences for San Antonio on the pitch. And people guys getting healthy too. Pirano is back, Tainter's back, guys who have missed some time. And so, yeah, I mean, we got completely outplayed in the first half. And coming off of 4 league matches unbeaten, to immediately jump to fire Zach, sack Zach, whatever, I think is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you have to look at that in context of, again, we're playing the defending champions. San Antonio is on a pretty good run right now, aside from the Detroit City loss. And so, playing at Toyota Field, where we've done better recently. But yeah, it's just, you have to take it all in context. And I think this shows, Zach made some tactical changes at halftime, put them in. The club went out and did it, and they fought their asses off for the last 45 minutes and had opportunities to try to pull back a second. They just weren't able to do that, even after picking up that first and cutting the lead. Now, I don't necessarily think anyone hung their heads in this one, but I do think that we weren't reactive enough in the first half, anywhere close to it.
So what do you attribute the first half to?
San Antonio. It's like we were trying to do stuff, but San Antonio, like I said, I'll say in the Answer Rack show, San Antonio's first step to every ball was quicker. There was one pass in particular I want to pick out, and I want to think it was a pass across the field in our defensive half going to Harry. And instead of coming to the ball, Harry just stands there. And the San Antonio player just walks right in front of him, takes the ball, and, takes the ball and goes down the pitch. Like, why?
Why did we come out flat?
That I don't know. That I really don't know. I don't think it's a lack of motivation. I don't think it's a lack of preparation.
Was it just 10 days off?
That could be it.
And there were some lineup changes. Santi came off the bench.
Hurst came off the bench, which I thought was weird from this matchup. I would have liked to have seen Hurst out there, given his size and his ability to work the hold-up play a little bit more. Now, obviously, the Kelowna change was warranted by the Kalen Wright and red card. But, yeah, I don't understand some of the changes. And it didn't work for us. Like, I would have rather seen Santi start. I would have rather seen Drake Hurst start. But would that have made enough of a difference at this point? Looking back on it, I don't know.
And obviously, we don't know the thought process behind those changes necessarily. Maybe Santi was dealing with something physical. Maybe Hurst was dealing with something physical. I mean, part of me is like, yeah, that because I saw complaints about the changes up top specifically, and I understand them, but Weehan has looked good when he's been in there.
Mhm.
Moreno and Rivas have looked good.
Mhm.
Rivas had scored in 4 straight. Doling had a 3-assist night on top of, or right after, on the heels of a goal in the Open Cup. So I don't think you can really look at that and say we didn't necessarily put our best team forward. I think
Right.
we have a few iterations of our best team. I'm not sure why it didn't translate to any success in the first half, but correct me if were there any changes at halftime? I don't feel like there were changes at halftime.
Nothing at halftime. We didn't make a sub until I believe the 65th.
Till after we scored the first goal, at least.
Yeah.
So the same starters looked good in the second half for the most, or for half of it at least. So it's kind of a to me, you just chalk it up to kind of like you said, the defending champs in San Antonio. San Antonio coming off a 1-goal loss to Detroit City, a game that we were pissed about losing because they severely outplayed Detroit City in that match. And I don't think we were quite ready for their intensity, and took us a while to get up to speed. So I'm not freaking out about this. I think it almost kind of sets us up a little bit better for a home match against El Paso, an El Paso team that I believe has won 6 straight. And I will be thoroughly happy if we are the ones that end that win streak and put a big red L in the standings there for them. And so it is what it is. I think we bounce back just fine. And we still get San Antonio here in August. So we shall see what happens then. And by no means where I don't think we were played off the pitch for the whole 90 minutes, which means we weren't played off the pitch, even if it felt like it could have been that way at halftime.
Yeah, I agree with you. There were definitely moments that we could have improved upon in the first half. There are definitely things we could have done better in the second half. But I mean, even with the more direct play style, we dominated possession in the second half. You could see guys getting creative, getting more opportunities. You saw Santi get involved once he came on. And you could see guys looking for opportunities to get that ball in the area, and yeah, I mean San Antonio looks really good right now. Like you said, we do have the return match in August when San Antonio does come back to the lab. But yeah, looking ahead to Saturday, I mean, back at the lab, Devon Sandoval night, El Paso lost their first 3 to start the season. They're now 8 matches unbeaten. Like I said, 6 wins in a row. It's El Paso surprising some folks. Like, I don't think any of us expect this out of El Paso. And so looking in that, I don't think there's a whole lot of reason to be down going into that match on Saturday. I don't think there's a lot of reason to doubt that we're going to come out and play well at the pitch, and play well on our pitch at the lab and take it to El Paso, because there's a lot of things that we're still doing well despite the moments or the periods of time where we aren't executing what it is that Zach wants them to do.
Yeah, well said. I'm going to give my very short preview for the El Paso match. And I think we win. I don't feel like it's close.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing this specifically for you, Jerry, so I hope you're listening. So you can put the clown music behind me if I'm wrong, but because I know how much you love that. I think El Paso is playing very well. Obviously, can't argue with the results. I do not take time out of my busy life to study El Paso games when they're not playing us, unlike some El Paso fans do when it comes to New Mexico. So, that being said, I'm not going to give you an X's and O's reason why we break them down or why we beat them. I think coming off the loss to San Antonio after a pretty good run of form in the USL Championship, playing at home, which is huge, I think, this year so far. you look at our home matches, I think we're 2-1 or 2-1-0,
Mm-hmm.
two wins, one draw, and no losses. And those, even the draw was, I think we kind of dominated that game against San Diego. So we have played much, much, much better at home than we have on the road. It's a rivalry match. We have done pretty good to really good against El Paso here in the past. Have we lost to them here?
I'd have to double check that. I want to say we
don't.
might have once. I'll double check that.
I know we've drawn here, but I want to say we haven't lost, but I could be wrong. And so I just feel in my gut that we get hyped for this game, and maybe El Paso, coming off of 2 weeks without playing, is the team that comes out and doesn't step to every ball and doesn't get on that front foot. And so I really do think that we just come out and we kind of take it to them. Maybe not scoreline like 5-0, but a game that never really feels in doubt.
Yeah, going back through this, looking here. The time off for El Paso coming into this is really interesting. Not played since the 20th. Now, we do still have matches in hand, and I mean, really, Harry and I were looking outside. We're really not going to make up these matches for some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a long time off. We're sitting here talking about 10 days off for United. Was there some possible rust? Did that play into it? And I mean, I just don't. I mean, with how well El Paso is playing, I have a hard time thinking that they're going to be rusty like we were after 10 days. But who knows? I mean, anything can happen. They've certainly got some guys who are playing extremely well. Still some familiar faces down there. A lot of guys that we're used to seeing. Yuma, of course, will be a factor in this match. We did lose September 2nd of last year.
Yeah, I just saw that.
So
forgot about that.
Yeah, I was looking to that. So I mean, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe there's not an X's no things. Maybe we outplay them. Maybe they outplay us. I mean, I really haven't spent as much time watching El Paso as I probably should. But they're playing really well. They're grinding out games. They're not necessarily blowing anybody out. They're not necessarily stellar defensively. I think they have. Let me double check. I want to say they have 2 clean sheets. 3. I do apologize. They have 4. Sorry. I'm scrolling through here. I'm scrolling through and looking at this but I mean, they're not great defensively. You look at some of the games that they've lost. They lost to Sacramento, who of course, top team in the West. They lost to Colorado Switchbacks, another, top team in the West. They lost to Detroit City. Again, that was their 3-match losing streak to start the season. 2 goals to FC Tulsa, another 2 goals to the Switchbacks in the second time around. So they're not this powerhouse club, but they're getting results. And really, that's all you can ask for from your team if that's who you're supporting, is that they go out, they get results. It doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be 3-0, 4-0, 2-0, whatever. If you're grinding out 1-0 wins, 2-1 wins, it all counts the same in the standings.
I mean, they are top 7 in both goals scored and goals conceded.
Mm-hmm.
And where are they? Load faster.
I mean, stolen the leading the team with 6 goals.
They're only +6 in goal differential, so not a huge number there, but still nothing to complain about. I mean, they would be tied for the top goal differential in the East.
Yeah.
And they're only behind San Antonio, who has a 7-0 on their resume, and then Sacramento, who's only lost once. So, they're just kind of grinding them out, but doing it in a way that could be sustainable, if I'm being honest. I hate to give them credit.
Yeah, no, it absolutely can be. I mean, you've got goals spread around by guys, which is something that, we typically, do. That's what we've done this year. Our goals are spread around for the guys who've scored them. And you've got a guy like Stolniak, a guy who's been with the club for a number, or I think this is his third year with the
I
club.
believe so. Yes.
So he's the guy that he understands the systems that they want to run. He understands how to play his position. He knows where to get to be dangerous. And
it's his third year with the club, but it is his third coach with the club.
Yeah, no, I agree. But they're really, in terms of like tactics, there are a lot of similarities between what we've seen. They're just doing better with it this year than they have. And so, Stolniak, playing up top like he has been, I think they have him dropping down a little bit, almost like a false nine at times. But I mean, he's a guy that's dangerous. And when you've got guys like, Calvillo or Herrera feeding him the ball, or even, Zacharias, feeding him the ball, like he's going to get opportunities. And so, he's a guy that we've talked about a lot over the past few years. So, I mean, they're just playing really, really well, and they're getting the results that they want, Mm-hmm. So, looking at it, it's going to be interesting. I know Peter was on 101.7 The Team today. He said that the team is expecting over 10,000 in attendance. Hopefully the number's a little bit higher than that, being Devon Sandoval night and all. School is out finally across the state. So maybe more families get out on a Saturday night, go pack the lab. But I think this year, especially after the loss to San Antonio, playing at home is going to be a really good opportunity for the guys to get back and really show again what they can do, because we've got 4 matches here at home in the month of June, which is tremendous, seeing as how it's only our 4th home game of the season at this point. So, it's coming in, we're unbeaten at home. El Paso's unbeaten on the road. So one or the other's got to give. I guess technically that we could both end up unbeaten still, but I mean, we have to be better out of possession. Number one, we have to be better at controlling the midfield, which is not something we did well early on against San Antonio. And we have to move to the ball and move the ball a little bit quicker than what we did. Because El Paso's midfield is extremely strong. And they have the ability to take that ball out of the midfield and go on a break. So, a couple things just to watch for there on Saturday. Can we execute in the midfield? Can we maintain possession? And then, like I said, step to the ball instead of waiting for the ball to come to us and allowing El Paso opportunities to get the ball when really it should be us in possession. So, I don't know. How do you feel about go ahead and doing our score predictions for that?
Let's do it. I'll say I want to say my gut says 2-1, but I give you guys shit for predicting the most common score line. So I'm going to say 2-0. 2-0.
2-0. Okay. Robert, some people might agree with you. However, Earl is missing.
Who's this? Who's this Robert fellow you speak of?
Yeah, that's Robert. Earl is missing. Earl is not here. So technically Jacob is greater than Earl. So, this is going to be a tough one. It really is. This is going to be really tough. I would not be surprised if we see a red card on Saturday.
Always an option when El Paso, especially if Yuma is starting. Yep.
I mean, no matter where Yuma is, whether if he's in the stadium, there's a chance of a red card there. But it's going to be tough. I want to see us come out with 2 at the top. That's what I want to see. Play the ball, try to play direct, get the ball forward. And it's just, control the midfield. If we can do those things, I feel like we have a really good chance. El Paso's unbeaten streak comes to an end Saturday night. 1-0. 1-0. Because I think we're good enough defensively to keep them out. It's just a matter of limiting the chances for Solniak and keeping him on towards the edge of the area, because I think he's not as good from outside the box as he is inside. But I think that's what we have to do to win on Saturday.
I will shout out one El Paso player that you have not mentioned that has impressed me, and that is Petrovic. They're one of their new attacking players. He has 3 goals in 7 appearances, so he's not like lighting the world on fire, but his finishing has looked solid. He's put himself in pretty good situations. So aside from Sleniak, we do have him, and you mentioned some other names in there, of course, to worry about. So it's not going to be easy. I just think we come out on the front foot, much like San Antonio did, and kind of take it to them. And so I'm looking forward to. I will, unless things change, I will be there.
Very cool. Very cool. I may or may not be there. Depends. I need to reach out to David Carl and put in a question first. I sometimes have my kids, and the club has been kind enough to allow me to bring my kids and hang out up in the press box. And my sons help me with my stuff. And apparently some folks were not happy about that. So got to find out if I can take the kids. If I can, I'll be there. If not, I will be home watching the match, doing all my regular things from home. But I'm hoping I can get out there, see you. I haven't seen you in a couple months. So
yeah. If you do, that'd be great. I think since the opener, right? I think that's the only one I've made it to.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So we have no idea if Earl's going to be there.
No, I've been to 2. Sorry, have I been to 2?
I think you've been to 2.
Yeah, I think I made it to the first 2, and then I missed the last one.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but I feel like that's. I know I was for sure at San Antonio or at San Diego. I think that's the only one I made. Actually. Okay. Because who are the other 2 teams? Orange County and Monterey Bay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I was there for either of those.
Yeah, you may not have been.
I don't think I was. So really looking forward to getting out there. It'll be a long day. I will work until 4, and then I will hop in the car and drive 2.5 hours to get there. Get there shortly before the game starts, and then turn around and drive the 2.5 hours back home and go to work Sunday morning. So definitely a long day, but I think for Devon Sandoval night against El Paso will be worth it. Unless we lose, then I will be very upset that I did that. But it's always good to go out and see everybody and be in the lab for a match for sure.
Yeah, looking forward to hopefully being out there, and if I am, hopefully getting a chance to talk to Devon again. I was on 101.7 today, and we kind of talked about some of our favorite memories of Devon Sandoval on the pitch, and I know we've kind of talked about it before, but yeah, we were talking about the first goal at the lab, fastest goal for the club.
He had a bicycle kick in there.
Bicycle, yeah, and then
the first playoff goal.
Yeah, and then just
a ton of things.
Yeah, and then too talking about the opportunities to talk to him off the pitch, the pressers and all kinds of things, seeing him out in public, different places. So I think it'll be a special night, for folks to get out there and see Devon and honor him as the first player to retire from the club. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess technically second, but Sully, David.
Oh yeah, David so not even the second. He's like the third.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Kiesewetter is apparently in real estate now, according to his Instagram, and Juan Pablo Guzman fell off the face of the earth. So there's been
so did Kenny.
Kenny's still playing.
Is he? Is he? Still
playing?
Okay.
Oh yeah, he's been playing overseas.
Okay, I've been trying to follow him, but I reached out to him a while back on Instagram. He never responded. So
no, he's definitely he's semi-active on Facebook and has put in a lot of videos of him performing overseas and stuff. So
okay. Very cool.
Tommy Madden and Ethan Sampson, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Soler played for a few places. I've been having this idea. I want to run it by you real quick.
Okay.
I want for you to come up with questions, just United trivia questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to challenge a fan.
Hmm.
And if they beat me, they will get 2 tickets to a game or merch of some kind.
Ooh, okay.
And there will be no funny business. I want it to be as legit as can be, because I really, really do think that I've got one of the better memories when it comes to stupid details when it comes to this team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been thinking about that a lot lately. So we'll have to maybe put that out on social media. maybe we can do a video at the game if you can have the questions ready by Saturday. I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe see if we can find a fan that'll do it if you end up coming.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We can certainly do that. If we can't do it Saturday, maybe we do it like on the podcast next week.
Yeah,
or something.
that works too. I just if in person would be nice if you're there. If not, maybe I can talk to somebody and see, put it out on Facebook or something, see if anybody wants to come on and do that. Couple more notes before we move on to the Ted Lasso spoiler section. Suggs had a chance against San Antonio to pass 2,000 career minutes. He did not get there. He fell short because he did not start. He came in. So if my calculations are correct, he needs 65 minutes on Saturday to reach that 2,000 minute mile marker, or 2,000 minute marker. 20,000 minute mark. I got there eventually. Okay. And so that's pretty cool. That's huge. This year I've been pleasantly surprised with Suggs. I've always loved him. He's always been one of my favorite players and people from the team. Avid hunter, grew up in Las Cruces, just all around dude. Has a son that's pretty close to my oldest son's age. So I've just always really resonated. I think he's my age. I think we're both 34, if I remember correctly, or he's a tick younger, but not by much. And so just always really resonated with him, and for him to be close to such a massive number in the USL just kind of speaks to his longevity and his ability to keep producing and keep playing at a high level, even if it's not, even if it meant that he maybe didn't get called up to MLS or have another option somewhere else. It just shows a tremendous amount of longevity there, and the fact that the last 5 years of those minutes have come with New Mexico United in his home state is just an awesome feat. So just wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, no, absolutely huge career milestone for Josh Suggs coming up. I was disappointed he didn't get the start. I will say I was kind of disappointed for two different reasons. One, I felt like he would have had I felt like he could have maybe had an impact on that match, and he looked really good the time that he was out there. Also just want to see him get the record,
I'd like it. I agree. I think at home against El Paso on Devon Sandoval night, if he is to accomplish it on Saturday, I think is pretty fitting that the two New Mexico boys that have spent the most amount of time here are the two that are going to be honored on the same night if it happens, and I do think that's pretty cool. I don't think that really factored into the decision at all.
No.
But I do think it's pretty cool if it works out that way, and so I'm kind of hoping he starts and at least gets that 65 minutes.
Yeah, it'd be really good to see him get that ahead of or in front of the crowd at the lab. I think it'd be a great milestone there. So did you have any other notes? I know you said you had a couple, but
I feel like I did, but I started talking and now I have forgotten them, as one does when you have baby brain. So the Suggs was the main one for sure, and then the trivia thing. So just really looking forward to it.
1 second. So absolutely looking forward to the match Saturday night against 7:00 out at the lab, Devon Sandoval night. ESPN Radio 117 team is still giving away 2 pairs of tickets to that match. All you have to do, I'm going to hype it up here as well. If you're not following, I am a company man. If you're not following the station on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all you have to do is go follow the account. And then you get entered into the drawing. You can follow each page and get 1 entry for each. First prize gets a prize pack valued at close to $100, 2 tickets plus a $50 United gift card to be used.
That'll get you half a hat.
I'm just
kidding. You can use that though to buy a very, very special edition Devon Sandoval shirt.
That shirt looks awesome.
Of him with the bicycle kick, the aforementioned bicycle kick. So, question. when we get the stadium, does it automatically come with a Devon Sandoval statue, or is that something that will be added later? Because I feel like it's there from the minute we open that stadium, and it's got to be him with dreads. None of this short hair. I love the short hair, Dev, but it's got to have the dreads. And I don't know what position. Maybe it's him celebrating after that very first goal in club history. Maybe it's him throwing the 505. Maybe it's him holding up the Schmidt armband. Just so many moments that you could point to for it, but it's got to be their opening day, right?
I think that has to be. I think that's being factored into the cost of the stadium and
right.
the layout of it, because it's gonna be massive, almost as big as the stadium itself. So.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
But no, I think there has to be a Devon Sandoval statue. Just because of his contributions to soccer in New Mexico, his time with the club, UNM, all that. I think it's a given that there's going to be a Devon Sandoval statue.
Yeah, for sure. And I cannot wait to see it and take pictures with it. And I just he's a legend on and off the pitch, and I'm gonna hold back some Devon Sandoval talk until after the match Saturday, and then we will for sure talk about not only the match but Devon and his contributions to this club and this community for the last 5. Can you believe it's been 5 years?
5 years.
We're in season 5 already. Just kind of like I was thinking about it the other day. I was at Isotopes Park for an Isotopes game last Wednesday. Yeah, last Wednesday night. And I was sitting there. It was just me and my oldest, Zeke. And we were there. We were hanging out. We were sitting front row on the third base side. And I was watching the game. And then, in between innings when Zeke wasn't wanting to go get popcorn or Dippin' Dots or cotton candy or go play on the playground, I was thinking, man, I have so many fond memories at that place, both for Isotopes and United. But when we finally get a United stadium, and whenever that may be, and I'm looking at it like, man, at some point I'm going to be looking at this club, going to matches and saying, I've been coming to matches for 10 years. And then I was like, holy shit, we're halfway there already. Like the fact that it's already been 5 seasons and, we've been fortunate to cover the club in some capacity, all 5 of those seasons. We've been fortunate enough to go to multiple home matches every year, aside from the COVID year when we had none. And it's just been a blessing and been a huge part of our lives. I'm sure it's somewhat led to your 1017, the team job that you currently have. Yep. If not fully led to that, I think you would have got there one way or another. But you being able to do that, me and you and Earl and Harry, fuck Robert, being able to meet and get to know each other and form friendships and bonds that'll last long after we're covering the team and stuff is just something that is a really big deal, and that is in large part due to Devon Sandoval, is how I'm going to bring that full circle. And so we'll definitely have a chat about that next Tuesday.
Sounds good. We will certainly do that next week. But yeah, as promised, Ted Lasso discussion. This is something we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
So if you don't watch Ted Lasso, or if you haven't caught fully up on Ted Lasso, then you should probably just go ahead and leave now. And to those that are doing that, just want to make sure you guys know, next Tuesday, if for whatever reason neither of us get to go, maybe we do a live after the El Paso match. So you might check with our social media on Saturday and see. We'll post shortly after the match if we're going to go live or not. Other than that, we will be here next Tuesday at 9:30, 9. For a recap of Devon Sandoval night, the El Paso match. We'll look forward to the next match, which off the top of my head, I don't know what it is.
Tampa Bay.
Oh, Tampa Bay. So that'll be a good one. So we'll kind of look forward to that. We'll probably have some other nonsense. We will probably talk about Ted Lasso's season finale by then. So catch up. If you haven't watched it, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
It is one of the best shows on earth. And if you haven't watched it, trust me, you can stay and listen to the next part. There will be spoilers, but I've seen the first 2 seasons multiple times. And it is still, even on like the second and third watch, it's still one of the best shows on television. So you can listen, you can hear our excitement, you can see what it's kind of about, and then you can go watch it. But if you have not caught up with it up until tonight's season finale, you should leave now, come back either Saturday or Tuesday, and until then, somos unidos. Now let's get into Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso, yeah, this is. I don't want to say that I was late to it, but I didn't have an Apple Plus.
You were late to it.
I don't want to say I was late. I didn't have an Apple TV. Like I'd caught season 1 a couple times, doing various Apple TV subscriptions, free trials, things like that.
Earl coming in way late with a prediction of 2-0. Thank you for joining us, Earl. We are well past the prediction part of the show, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Yeah. Thank you, Earl, for chiming in there. I do appreciate the.
If it is in fact Earl.
Yeah. It's probably Marlena. So,
Well, I mean, I'm not putting it past it being, an alien at this point. I haven't heard Earl's voice in over a week. So, I'm just saying.
So it's a fantastic show. But like I said, using various Apple TV subscriptions and free trials and things.
There's 7 nights a week, Earl. And the one thing on your calendar every fucking week is Tuesday night at 9:00. It's set in stone. It's been set in stone for 3.5 years. I really?
No, I'm with you. I am absolutely with you. Like,
sorry, okay. Marlene. No disrespect to Marlena.
Yeah, no.
I like her. She puts up with Earl. That's saying a lot. That says a lot of character about her.
Yeah.
But Earl, you got to do better, buddy. You got to do better. Monday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, hell, Saturday night. I don't care. You can always rewatch the game later. This is live at 9:00 on Tuesday nights. Hey, it's a calendar that you've been following for 30 years, Earl. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then it starts over. There's no surprises. There's really no surprises. And guess what? You're off on Mondays, are you not? So guess what? You go to work Tuesday, you record Tuesday night. Very easy way to remember. First day of work, first day to record. Every week. Every week, Earl. So that's not a defense. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Back to Ted Lasso. In fact, I might just mute Earl.
You are perfectly fine. No, and it's a similar discussion that I've had. It's like, this is what I do on Tuesday nights. There's an understanding.
Okay, so he's been working much. Sorry, the second day you go to work, then.
Either way, Earl, we have been Tuesday nights for the past 3.5-4 years. We have been doing this show.
To be fair, I don't think he was on it when we first started.
No,
so that's why I said 3.5, because I think we've been doing it. Well, no, we did it 2020, 2021, 2022, and then part of 2023. So he's probably at like 2.5 years, maybe close to 3, but not quite. Still, I mean, still just a lot, enough that you should know Tuesday nights at 9:00 or you're busy. You're just busy. I'm gonna buy you a planner, and I'm gonna take the planner and I'm gonna mark every Tuesday at 9:00 in big, bold letters, Somos Mas Pod, and then I'm gonna hand it to you, and you will use that, and maybe you will make it on a Tuesday night pod again, without pink eye.
So let's see, Earl. I know
it is okay. I don't care about Earl because David brought up Ted Lasso, and we're moving on to Ted Lasso. Earl's been on a long time. That's all we need to know. David asks, "Is this the Ted Lasso pregame show?" And it is. It really is. It's going to
It
be
is.
apparently 2 minutes long because we only have 2 minutes till the premiere. But it is it's
So if you're not caught up on season 3, like the story arcs in season 3 have just been like out there. Now you and I were talking the other day about the whole, Ibra storyline, with Zava, and then like Zava was there for all of 2 episodes, 3 episodes, and he's just gone.
I mean, much like his appearance in MLS.
That's very true. But yeah, it's just like you look at it and like there's so much emotional stuff, like the psychological, emotional stuff that they've been dealing with since. I mean, really, Ted's panic attacks, since season 1.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact they actually dive into some of the mental health aspect of that stuff, and then watching the growth and development of these characters, like, I mean, Sam Obasanya, Jamie Tart. Like Jamie Tart's completely different from where he was in season 1.
It's Jamie Tart. Jamie Tart.
Exactly. Even Roy Kent. Like the characters are phenomenal. Like in this season here coming up, like tonight here in about a matter of about a minute and a half, basically, Richmond AFC are going for the title in the Premier League after being promoted at the end of last season.
After being relegated at the end of the first season.
Yeah, after being relegated. So relegation, promotion, fighting for the title, like Ted's evolution as a manager, Coach Beard. You see, Nate. Does Nate redeem himself?
Hold on. We're
like, I know there's so much, and we got like a minute.
Let's slow down real quick. I feel like we need a little bit of structure to how we talk about this, just because I think we focus on the last season.
Mm-hmm.
David's going to watch now.
David, see you, David.
Enjoy. We will talk about the season finale next week. I can almost guarantee you.
Yeah.
There's been, it's such a brief overview of seasons 1 and 2. Basically, if you haven't watched it, wife gets the team in a breakup, in a divorce, hires Ted Lasso, who is an American football coach, to come in and sabotage the team because it's the only thing that her ex-husband truly left. Ends up falling in love with Ted Lasso because everybody falls in love with Ted Lasso. Ends up fighting for relegation. Ends up getting relegated as Jamie Tart.
Last day of the season.
As the aforementioned Jamie Tart scores against them for Man City to relegate them. Actually, no, he doesn't score. He makes the extra pass.
Yeah,
which is what Ted Lasso wanted to do.
After he was recalled on loan, he was recalled from his loan
because the owner saw
benched.
how close he was actually getting to buy in, and she initiated the loan back, or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, gets relegated, comes back. The next season they're in the championship. They have a streak of ties, including Danny Rojas killing a dog on a penalty kick. A shrink comes in. There's also a sacrifice to get rid of ghosts. You will laugh hysterically probably 4 or 5 times an episode. You will cry hysterically once or twice an episode if you have a soul. So I'm sure Seth has been nothing but dry eyes over there. But I, on the other side, have cried multiple times. They touch on divorce. They touch on being a dad, which, as many of you probably know, me and Seth already are dads, and we have talked at length about being dads and had a podcast for a little bit. Still, I guess, technically have the podcast, just haven't recorded anything on it in a long time. And then obviously there's a football element. There's the England element, which I think is really fun. There's an old guy that calls him Wanker all the time, even though he likes Ted now. He flips him off still, even though he likes him now. Just a bunch of little tiny moments in there that'll just get to you one way or another, laugh, cry, whatever. The main storylines that I would like to talk about, if you're okay with it, are, you mentioned it right there at the end, Nate. Nate is a character who in the first season is a kit man who has no confidence, has nothing really. I mean, he's just a kit man, and he gets picked on. Nate then gets transformed in large part because of Ted Lasso into a assistant coach that knows soccer, Ted has given him confidence to put his ideas out there, and really was like the tactician of the group as far as coaching is concerned. Now, my timeline is a little off. Is the end of the first season when Nate goes full on bad guy and he had a whole season of being a bad guy, or was it the end of the second season?
End of the
second season.
End of the second season, because
yes, yeah. That's right. Because he was only the West Ham coach this season.
Yeah.
So, eventually it builds up to, Nate. You kind of see it coming, where Roy Kent comes and is brought on as an assistant coach. Nate kind of has some feelings about that, resents it, and then it comes down to Nate saying, "Hey, we should play a false nine." Some stuff happens in that game. It doesn't work in the first half. He gets mad, cusses about the players. They stick with it. It ends up working. But instead of celebrating, he gets mad. He goes in, he tears the believe sign. He slams it down and he leaves. Well, actually, we find out in this last episode that he doesn't leave after tearing the sign. And then Rupert, who is the ex-husband of the owner of Richmond AFC, buys West Ham and then hires Nate as the head coach or the manager for West Ham. And so that's kind of where we are going into that. And then Roy was next.
So before, real quick, Nate actually quits his position at West Ham because
I was just kind of bringing this up to the end of season 2.
Oh, okay.
And we can tackle season 3 as a whole real quick.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
So, and then also there's Roy Kent, who's a player. When it first starts, then he does get brought on as coach. He's probably my favorite character. He makes me laugh the most. His emotional moments make me cry the most because he's stoic and doesn't show a lot of emotion. So what he does kind of gets to me. Actually, I take it back. Ted and his sons' moments are what gets to me the most. But Roy's are a close second. He's got a relationship with Jamie where he hates him, and then they end up actually being really good friends. There's a scene in season 2 when Jamie's dad comes in the locker room and there's a scuffle, and then Jamie's dad leaves, who's a douche, by the way. And Roy, of all people, is the one that goes and gives him a hug after all that goes down. And that scene broke me for sure. So Roy's another main character that I think his arc was real fascinating. Not a lot going on with Roy in this season. There's some stuff with him and Keeley, but mainly he's a coach and he's still Roy. Then obviously you have Ted and Beard, and Ted went through the divorce, has the shrink, is having these panic attacks that you mentioned earlier. Still a lot going on there. So season 3, we start off, they get promoted. Like we mentioned, Zava, who's obviously kind of based on Ibrahimovic, is involved here. There's talk of a super league involved. I mean, there's a bunch of different things. So where do you want to go with season 3? You want to go on the Nate line real quick?
One person we've got to Trent Krim. I love the Trent Krim character. It's so much fun.
Trent's my favorite, like, kind of side character. Like, I don't think he's like one of the main handful of guys, but he is definitely. And then, I mean, Obisanya. What we really need to do.
Colin.
Yeah. What we really need to do is this off season, we're just going to watch 1 or 2 episodes a week. And then we're going to have just a breakdown of each episode. Obviously, that's being done. That was done when the show was coming out by other people. But I think it would just be fun to do that with you and rewatch it again, because like I said, I've rewatched it a handful of times already, and so
no, we should absolutely do that. That would be a lot of fun. Like, there's just so much to really get into and break down. But talk about season 3. I mean, let's just start with season 3. I mentioned Richmond has been promoted back to the Premier League. Ted Lasso, they clinched promotion on the last day of the season, and they come into it and they're on quite a winning streak. They're doing really well, and they're competing right there with West Ham. Obviously managed by Nate at this point, hired away from Richmond after he presumably quit. And we find out that there's a story that came. I believe this was at the end of season 2, beginning of season 3. Trent Krim writes a story about how Ted Lasso had a panic attack at the end of season 1 in the match against City. And Trent reveals that, in fact, that his source was Nate. As a result, Trent Krim loses his job at the paper and then comes into the club to write a book about the club. So you've got all these converging storylines. And so like the buildup of the first couple episodes is the kind of the build up to see the first match between West Ham and Richmond, Ted versus Nate. Mm-hmm. And you can see where, Nate has a bunch of conflicting emotions about it. And Ted's, people kind of question whether or not Ted's going to, forgive him or go at him or whatever. And like the club is, the Richmond players are all pissed off at Nate. And after seeing the video of him tearing the sign,
Yeah. So the first half doesn't go great.
Yeah.
And then the second half, Roy and Beard at halftime think, you know what we need to do? We need to fire these guys up. We're going to show them the video of Nate ripping the Believe sign down, ripping it in half, and putting it on the desk. So that's what they do against Ted's wishes. And it backfires in outstanding fashion and leads to multiple red cards, maybe?
Yeah,
I can't remember if they're red cards. And it basically just turns into a wrestling match instead of a soccer match, and just kind of backfires. So let me ask you a question.
Okay.
We kind of talked about that. Eventually, I guess we could finish. Eventually, Nate does leave the West Ham job, and there's this, conflicting things where he's got a girlfriend. Rupert invites him out, tries to get him to lose the girlfriend.
Rupert, a known player.
Yeah. And Nate quits because he realizes Rupert's a douchebag and doesn't want to work for him. So he quits. And then in the latest episode, he's working at the restaurant that his girlfriend works at, Taste of Athens from the first few seasons. And Colin, the new Kitman Will, and
McAdoo.
Yeah. McAdoo come in and say that they want him back at Richmond. They would welcome him back. Of course, Ted is not aware of this yet. They wanted to talk to Nate to see if he was willing to before they went to Ted. Nate seems into it at first until he finds out Ted doesn't know about it. Then he says no. And then eventually Ted asks everybody. Roy, in typical Roy fashion, says, I don't fucking care. Leslie, what's Leslie's last name? Why can't I only remember him as Leslie? Higgins, yes. Is all for it, giving second chances. Beard, quote, says, if you bring that man back, I will burn this fucking place to the ground. So obviously Beard's going to need a change of heart there.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, they're at the end of the penultimate episode. You see Beard go to Nate's apartment.
Which part of Ted Lasso's brilliance is the fact that he shows this video to Beard of Nate ripping the sign and then having to stay under the desk while the team celebrates, and then having to stay under the desk some more as the cleaning crew. Which obviously, can we talk about how bad of a cleaning crew if they don't find a body underneath the desk?
Did you notice too the one part he pushes the trash can out?
Yeah. And so, and then as you mentioned at the end of this last episode, Beard shows up at Nate's apartment,
and we get a lot of backstory on Beard.
So I was half in tears and half thinking it's Beard, so he could be full of shit, and it could be like the scene in remember the Titans when Denzel Washington's character is talking to Ronnie Bass saying that he had 12 brothers
12
and
brothers and sisters.
sisters,
Yeah.
and then the coach is like, "Yeah, 12 brothers and sisters? No, 3. No, 12 sounds
8.
better. 8,
Yeah.
whatever it was. 12 sounds better." So it could have been something like that. It's yet to be seen. But if it's true, my God, does it just show the heart of gold that Ted Lasso has?
Yeah.
Basically, this story was Beard's in jail. He gets out. Nobody wants anything to do with him. Ted brings him in. He steals Ted's car, and then Ted convinces the officers that he lent him the car so he doesn't get arrested and sent back to jail on parole, but because of a parole violation. And so because of that, Beard basically agrees to give Nate a second chance.
Yeah.
Nate asks him to headbutt him, which I thought was hilarious because I wish he would have.
Yeah.
Beard slowly brings him in and goes forehead to forehead, and then gives him a hug and tells him Monday morning at whatever time.
Mm-hmm.
The question that I have for you is, does Nate's character deserve this redemption arc? Not necessarily the person, obviously, where I can't speak for you, I guess, but I am a fan of second chances.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you that at the end of season 2, there was not a character in movie or television that I hated more than Nathan Shelley.
Yeah.
And that includes guys like Scar from The Lion King and Julius Caesar's character from Gladiator. Is it Julius Caesar?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's some truly awful people. Freddy Krueger. Just to name 3.
Okay.
And if you were to show me pictures of all of those people, I would be like, yeah, okay. But then if you showed me a picture of Nathan Shelley in the last year, I would recoil at the picture and hesitate not to punch it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much of a person how hated he was, because everybody could see that he was getting mad at Ted Lasso for no freaking reason, because Ted Lasso is what made him who he was. Yeah. And Ted genuinely likes the guy, loves the guy, and wanted him to succeed. So,
I mean, he takes his son to a West Ham game just to see Nate.
Yeah. So after Nate pulls a shit at the end of season 2, does he even deserve this arc? Or should he just remain the villain? Should he have just remained the villain?
I think he's realized that he really screwed up.
That's not what I'm asking.
I know. So,
as a fan, do you think he deserves this arc or not?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. I think he does. I think Nate Shelley, the character, realizes that Ted genuinely, liked having him there. He wouldn't have promoted, wouldn't have even given him the opportunity. And while he may have resented him bringing in Roy, I mean, Ted's putting people around him that, number one, he doesn't know the game of football. He doesn't know it at all. And so through most of the games, most of the episodes, you see Beard reading books, inverting the pyramid, the club, so they're learning as they go.
There's a really great scene in, I believe it's season 1, where the AR puts up his flag for offside, and Ted says, "Explain to me how that was offside," and then he's like, "No, really, explain, because I don't understand the rule."
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, no, it's and I think Ted genuinely likes Nate. I think he was genuinely hurt by Nate leaving.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I think he comes back. I think Ted welcomes him back. With no questions asked, he forgives him.
I mean, Ted does, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you've seen Ted. He's forgiven his mom. He's moved on from the loss of his dad.
He does say "fuck you" to his mom.
He does quite a lot.
Way more times than I would ever get away with.
Yeah,
just so you know.
No, absolutely. But you've seen the growth in Ted. You've seen him cope with a lot of different things. The divorce. Being away from his son, and all these things. And so, I think Nate deserves the redemption arc. And whether Ted Lasso goes for a 4th season or not, I think there's I think it would be a good way to close it out if there's not.
They do keep saying season 3 finale
and
not series finale, so that gives me some hope that there will be a 4th season. So we've kind of talked about Nate. We could go on pretty much all night, so I'm gonna reduce it down to, let's briefly touch on Ted's storyline. specifically in this third season.
Mhm.
And well, I mean, you kind of touch on it a little bit in the past there too, with the panic attacks and the divorce, stuff like that. That all kind of has to be said in order to talk about his arc this last season. He's a guy that gets divorced basically because he's a forever optimist
Mhm.
and is always bright and chipper. We kind of learn in this last episode that he's basically his mom, and that's kind of why he's always chipper, is because that's how he was brought up. He has these panic attacks. You can see him in this last episode on the verge of a panic attack a few times with his mom being in town.
Mhm.
Um, there's a great arc with him and the psychiatrist in season 2 where he grows a lot. And then he obviously has a son
Mhm.
that is, I don't know how old, probably Logan's age, maybe a little older.
A little bit older. I think he's somewhere around 8 or 10.
Okay.
Maybe I think he's around 10.
So just because it's fresh in my mind, I just kind of talk about this last episode and how he handles it, and kind of what it means for his character as a whole. His mom visits at some point at the end of the episode after the Man City match that they end up winning, to make it go down to the last match day of the season. He comes home. His mom's cooked him 2 meals, not just one. And then he basically says, "Thank you for making the meals, but fuck you for ... Thank you for this, but fuck you for this. Thank you for this, fuck you for this. Thank you for this, fuck you for this." So on and so forth. Get some stuff off his chest. Really kind of lets you in on why he is the way he is, why he was the way he was before he got help with the psychiatrist. And it's a really, really, really jarring scene to me. Really touching scene in a lot of ways. And then, of course, at the end of it, the line that just killed me, almost to like ugly cry, not quite to ugly cry. Nah, it might have been ugly cry actually. He asks his mom if she has anything to tell him or something along those lines, and she says, "Yes, your son misses you," and a crying Ted Lasso says, "I know." How have you felt? Like, obviously there's the coach Ted Lasso, there's the happy-go-lucky Ted Lasso, and then there's kind of the real Ted Lasso that's the panic attacks at karaoke and the panic attack at the end of the Man City game at the first season. Your thoughts on just Ted Lasso as a character, this last episode. I can relate to him because I have kids. You can relate to him a little bit more with an older son, a son that's a little closer to his son's age. You have been through a divorce since we've known you. What makes Ted Lasso great, and how do you connect with him or not connect with him throughout the seasons?
You're right. Like
and you can cry too. I almost cried, so you can cry if you need to.
Yeah, and I mean Ted Lasso as a character, like he just, you mentioned that you and I both have kids, where all that kind of stuff. Like he's someone who's been through some stuff in his life. Losing his dad, obviously a strained relationship with his mom. I think we find like they haven't talked in some time, and that she kind of just surprises him by showing up in London, and dealing with the fallout from divorce, and not seeing his son, and obviously moving across the Atlantic Ocean, basically moving from Kansas to England,
And sorry, not to cut you off. There is a semi-important side note in there. He basically makes this move to try to save his marriage.
Yeah.
Because his wife at the beginning of the show says she needed space, so he gave her, I don't know what the mileage is. Nate knew it, but I can't remember it.
Yeah.
And so then he moves, and then obviously it doesn't work out. They still get a divorce. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and so number one, first of all, seeing Ted Lasso as just the person, as the dad, as the husband or the ex-husband, the son, like, and dealing with his anxieties and the panic attacks, and like there's a lot there that I identify with as well. Yeah, obviously I'm not 2,000 plus miles from my son, but from or either of my sons, but yeah, not having the relationship that he wants with them, not having the relationship that he wants with his parents, not like I think he tries to do the best that he can to kind of to please everybody in a way, giving of himself, giving up, putting everyone else ahead of him. Because, again, you see him dealing with the panic attacks, and, he comes into work every morning with a box of biscuits that he makes for his boss, like, so he goes out of his way for the entire first season and a lot of the second season to really hide all of those issues. And it's not until some point later, I think it's late season 2, maybe even early season 3, where he says to the club, yeah, I have panic attacks. Mental health is a thing. There's even like a press conference where after one of the matches, where they sit down and talk about it. And, like I said, Ted Lasso as a dad resonates a lot with me, given, what he dealt with and, the personal struggles that he has with all that, you see him, trying to move on with Sassy, and she doesn't want a real relationship with him, and so like, I mean, there's so much, and given his other relationships, like that too kind of to Ted probably feels like abandonment, like he's not able to get the relationship that he wants from there.
That does lead to a pretty funny sequence of scenes where she says you're a fucking mess.
Mm-hmm.
And then he asks some people if he's a fucking mess, and they all are basically like, yeah, Ted,
Yeah.
you're a mess. Like, but it's okay. It's okay that you're a mess, but you are a mess. And so, just want to throw it in there.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. And then like you see the scenes like with him and Beard, and you find, like we talked about, Beard's revelation at the end of the last episode, and you find out more about Ted, like how he handles his relationships with people. And, while he may push some people away, like kind of like what he did, not necessarily intentionally did with Nate, but like, just how he's so willing and open to talk to people and try to figure things out. And like, he's so one of the things what he preaches is trying to make the best people out of the players around him,
Mm-hmm.
Make them into better people. And like, it's just, I think his growth, like I think to me, he's exhibited the most growth throughout all 3 seasons.
I will slightly disagree.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, Ted Lasso was a coach. I mean, obviously American football coach, that's what he knows. Being thrust into an environment where he doesn't know England, he doesn't know soccer, he doesn't know anything. He's learning as he goes, but he's still able to get the best out of his players. Now, is that entirely him? Probably not, because you have Beard, you have Nate, you have Roy Kent. He gives people opportunities to continuously improve themselves and put them in positions to where they can, feel. Because you look at Roy, when Roy leaves, he goes and becomes a pundit, and he realizes like he misses the game, and so Ted has always offered him that opportunity. Even when he's gone, he has the chances he offers up opportunities for Roy and for the other guys to like be leaders to the team, and like he's just, even that eternal optimist is still there, but I think he has a better understanding of how to handle himself and handle situations around him, and like he's just, it's an incredibly like real character that you don't see often in TV shows.
Well, what's funny is in the so the whole show is actually based off of an NBC skit for little ads for Premier League because NBC has Premier League, and so basically the show and Ted Lasso's character starts off as a cartoon, like not obviously a cartoon, but just starts off as like this cartoonish, outlandish kind of character that's just all happy-go-lucky and aw shucks type of guy. And he has really developed that depth of, not just being this, aw shucks, I'm going to spit sparkling water out because it catches me off guard every time I drink it, make everybody laugh, make everybody happy kind of guy. And And the only reason why I will say that he hasn't shown the most growth, I think, through the 3 seasons is because there's a character named Jamie Tart who is just night and day difference than what he was the first episode of the first season. So, but I mean, that's not to say Ted hasn't shown a tremendous amount of growth. And honestly, he might have grown more than Jamie. I don't know. It's tough to see, but there's just a lot there. There's just so much that you could go into. Ted specifically, the coach side of Ted. Obviously, he doesn't know the X's and O's, but he's smart enough to put people around him that know the X's and O's. And he is a good leader of men, despite what you might think of him as a tactician for soccer, with him not knowing the rules and stuff. He connects with people on a human basis, on a human level, and that goes a long way. And as somebody who's coached, obviously not a whole lot, but I've coached high school baseball, middle school basketball, a few times over, it's connecting with players of all skill levels and ages and sports is probably the most important thing. There's actually a great scene at the end of the Man City match this last episode where Pep comes over, and they actually get Pep, which I think is great. Him and Ted shake hands. Ted says something, and then Pep is like, "Oh, it's not about wins and losses. It's about making your players the best person on and off the pitch and stuff like that." Which it is, if I'm not mistaken, it's a direct quote from Ted Lasso talking in the season 1 about maybe just to Beard, but I think it was to more people. I don't really remember. And so just a nice moment to kind of bring it around, which makes it feel like this might be the last season. It's hard to say, but just kind of brings it full circle there. And you can see Ted really does that. I mean, you get Ted to get Roy to come out and fix McAdoo at the street ball courts. You get Ted burning, having the sacrifice and burning stuff to get rid of the ghosts of the training room when Danny Rojas is hurt. You basically have him fix Becca, for lack of a better term, as far as being an owner and caring. And because when the show starts, she's just a conniving, evil kind of bitch, honestly, that just wants to watch the club burn, and he is able to win her over and turn her around and get her to try and see the best in people and realize that she's hurting people by doing this, not just Rupert. And he just does all these things for other people, and then you realize deep down, like, he's doing all this stuff for other people, but he's really hurting inside for his own things. And just the depth. What this show does great is, I mean, it tackles topics that are relevant. You have the Sam Ibisanya, just shut up and dribble line from somebody there in England. You've got Colin. Spoiler alert. Why am I mean, we're at this point, you already know he comes out as gay. So you have that. You have McAdoo being mad at Colin.
For not telling him.
Yeah, you have McAdoo going in the stands to fight a guy who says the worst F word, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you just have all these kind of relevant topics. You get the Super League, like I mentioned. They just do a great job of sometimes they feel a little forced with these topics, but for the most part, they do it in a very organic way. They handle it very well. And then you've got just all these through lines of mental health and the dynamics between players and the dynamics between coaches and players, the dynamic between coaches, the dynamic between, relationships. There's Keeley, who's a main character involved that dates Jamie and Roy and a girl. There's just a ton of things that it does. And it just does, like, you think of shows that do kind of try to touch on all these things, and they might touch on all things, but they might be kind of half-assed for some of them. But Ted Lasso hits like every single one right on the nail of the head and does such a good job doing it. And it pulls on your heartstrings in happy ways and sad ways and ridiculous ways. And and just they do such a good job of just melding everything together. And it's definitely a show that you will watch and watch over and over again, especially if they only make 3 seasons. I mean, you could watch it once a year, knock all 3 seasons out in a month or so, and I could see myself doing that a bunch of times, and it's just a show that is just, I mean, just chef's kiss, just perfect. And so we've got season 3 finale about halfway over right now, probably. We will watch that in due time. You might watch it tonight. I don't know. Me and Allie watch it together, so I got to make sure she's awake if we're gonna watch it. So, but just a tremendous show that I told you and Earl both about. I think after season 1 that y'all needed to watch it, and I'm glad that you finally have, and we can actually talk about it.
Yeah.
And we will be doing that more. We'll probably talk about the finale next week, and then we might not talk about it for a little while, but definitely want to do a watch long kind of breakdown of a couple episodes every week in the off season, or maybe even during the season. And well, I'll be busy at this during the season from here on out. So yeah, but definitely something I want to do. And I didn't mean to hijack the Ted Lasso part, but
no, that's fine.
As the one who was like trying to get you onto it for a long time, I had a lot of thoughts that I needed to get off my chest about.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. And I mean, there are so many things to talk about with this show, and I mean, we've already got, we could talk probably another hour and a half easy, just talking about, season 3.
I could talk another hour and a half on like the first 2 episodes, honestly. Like,
right, yeah,
just a tremendous amount of stuff in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you're okay, we can table the rest for another time. But yeah, I mean, season finale, hopefully not series finale, will be watched at some point. Yeah, so we will definitely talk about that next week. But yeah, I mean, you already closed out the official part of the show. You want to go and close out this part as well?
Yeah. For those of you that stayed on to hear our talk about Ted Lasso, I appreciate you. For those that just stayed on because you fell asleep while it was on, or what I do actually is I fall asleep listening to a podcast that I like to fall asleep to, but then it ends up, if I don't set the sleep timer, it plays episodes after that. So maybe you're just waking up now. If that's the case, hello, welcome. We're going to now end the podcast, even though you just woke up, and move on to something else. You'll maybe Joe Rogan will be playing next on your podcast. Maybe murder mystery. Side note: I have talked to a uneasy amount of single women traveling out here that listen to murder mystery podcasts.
It's a white girl thing
while they are camping by themselves for like full time.
Yeah.
And those might be the craziest people of all, but I digress. Thanks again for listening. David, Harry, fuck you, Robert, Earl, third person Earl, and Marlena. All thank you guys for being in the chat. Not thank you, Earl. You're supposed to be on the show. But thank you, Marlena, for setting an alarm for next Tuesday so he can be on. I appreciate that, even though he's a grown-ass man and he should be able to remember Tuesdays at 9:00 after 3 years. Anyways, we went a little long because of the Ted Lasso talk, but that is to be expected because it's the greatest show ever made. And we will be talking about that finale next week after we talk some United football. So tune in if you're just wanting to catch the Ted Lasso part. Tune in again next week, probably around 9:45 for the Ted Lasso part. But do join us earlier for the Mexico United talk, as that is actually our bread and butter and what we would get paid to talk about if we got paid to do this podcast. With that being said, next week, 9:00 for our normal podcast, maybe Saturday for a recap. And definitely talk about the last episode here where my prediction is they do not win the title. Ted Lasso does not win the title with AFC Richmond. That's my prediction. And I think we'll be able to know if there's going to be another season. If they win the title, probably over. If they don't win the title, we're coming back for another season. But we will see. And so until next week, guys, somos unidos and be safe out there.